Now, I have reviewed home theater products from almost every brand, going back nearly 20 years now, and there has been one brand that I have routinely chosen for my own personal use time and time again, Integra. So it goes without saying that I have pretty high expectations for their latest AV receiver, the DRX 3.4, so let's get into it. The Integra DRX 3.4 is a 9.2 channel AV receiver possessing 100 watts per channel into 8 ohms, albeit with only 2 channels driven. Integra doesn't give a rating for all channels driven, though it should be noted that the receiver is capable of driving 4 ohm speakers and has a dynamic power rating of 220 watts into 4 ohms. The Integra has support for Dolby Atmos, DTS:X, as well as IMAX enhanced content, and can be the centerpiece of a 5.2.4 or 7.2.2 speaker setup. You can tailor all of your speakers to your room using Dirac Live and the included microphone, which is standard inside the Integra. Like many of the new Onkyo and Pioneer receivers, the Integra has support for the latest video formats, which include 8K60 and 4K 120. Now, for you gamers, the Integra also supports variable refresh rate, auto low latency, and quick frame transport. The DRX supports Dolby Vision, HDR10+, and HLG content. And along with a bevy of analog and digital audio inputs, which include a moving magnet phono preamp, the Integra has full preamp outputs for all channels, allowing you to add a third-party amplifier for more power or for a second zone should you need it. Aside from physical connections, the Integra is compatible with Bluetooth, AirPlay 2, Alexa, Google Assistant, and it can even connect to popular streaming services like Spotify, Tidal, and more, all via Wi-Fi. And if you are an existing Sonos customer, the Integra works seamlessly with Sonos when connected to a Sonos port. Now, control over the Integra rests with the included remote, the Integra Control app, or can be handled via a third-party control system such as Crestron, Control4, and Savant, to name a few. Installing the Integra into our home theater wasn't too different from any of the other receivers we've reviewed on this channel, especially those from Onkyo or Pioneer. We used our Monitor Audio Bronze series speakers with the Integra along with the Bronze W10 subwoofer to round out the bass. We even did some 2-channel listening using the KLH Model 5s. The rest of our system consisted of our Sony X95J and Apple TV 4K and, of course, our PS5. And just like the Onkyo RZ50 and Pioneer 305 we have already reviewed, the Integra has Dirac Live built in. I love Dirac. I think that it is among the best room correction solutions on the market right now, and its implementation here is flawless. Sound is tighter, more intelligible, with better soundstage definition after running each speaker through its paces. Do you need to use it? No, but the results pre- and post-calibration are typically pretty dramatic, so I wouldn't skip it. Additional setup is easy, using either the nicely laid out on-screen menus, the Integra Control app, or a laptop and your web browser. While there is not an infinite level of customization with the Integra compared to, say, the Yamaha A8A, there is enough for die-hard users to make the Integra user experience their very own. I really like that the Control app essentially acts like an on-screen menu, which allows me to make truly in-depth changes to the Integra from my listening chair without having to disrupt what I'm watching or listening to. Gamers will love the Integra's next-gen HDMI support because gaming on our PS5 in HDR 4K 120 was epic. No drop frames, stuttery motion, or increased input lag, at least not to this casual gamer. Playing Call of Duty was buttery smooth in 4K 120, as was God of War in 4K 60. If you're not concerned with gaming, the Integra is more than enough receiver from a video standpoint to satisfy even the most picky home theater enthusiasts for a good long while. Alright, so how does the Integra sound? It should come as no surprise that the Integra has more than a passing sonic resemblance to the Onkyo RZ50 despite having 20 fewer watts on tap. While I will not say that the two are exactly the same, that kind of statement's bound to get me in trouble, I doubt most listeners would be able to tell them apart in a blind head-to-head. On the whole, the Integra's sound is basically neutral or true to the source. I can't detect any editorializing or overt coloration to either the source or our Monitor Audio speaker's inherent tone. In other words, if you're looking for an AVR to act as a tone control for a bright or dull speaker system, you may want to consider another receiver. Bass without a sub is taut and articulate with good texture and detail on up through the mid-range. While our Monitor Audio Bronze 100s have an 8-inch woofer, I don't believe I've heard them play deeper through an AV receiver, or integrated amp for that matter, than I have through the Integra, so huge points there. In truth, listening to Drifting by 2 Lanes was so fulfilling in the bass department that I just turned my sub off. Speaking of subwoofers, most folks are going to add a subwoofer, in which case any and all conversations about bass extension are likely moot. With a sub in tow, I was left wanting for nothing with respect to the Integra's bass performance. The mid-range is exceedingly neutral, as in no overt coloration or changes to your speaker's tone. So if you want warm, lush, romanticized instruments and vocals, unless it's in the mix, you're not likely to get that through the Integra. If you want clean, precise, unaltered sound, then the Integra is your friend. Of course, you can always go into the receiver's menus and adjust the tone controls to your liking or customize your DRX results to fit your individual taste. But left to its own devices, the Integra's mid-range is just the facts, man. Now, with respect to the high frequencies, I think the Integra is terrific. While you will no doubt get mildly sweeter and airier highs from costlier integrateds and maybe even some receivers. Rotel, I'm talking about you. At this price, I think the Integra's high frequency rendering is pretty great. Extended, detailed, without feeling forward or worse, shouty or aggressive. While the monitor bronze speakers can be a bit lively on their own, connected to the Integra, they never wandered into fatiguing territory, which is about all I need to say about the Integra's performance when it comes to the high notes. If you struggle with dialogue intelligibility, the Integra's highs, along with its mid-range, make for a good 1-2 punch if you're one to shout,
"What did they just say?"
Now, soundstage or surround sound wise, I think the Integra is utterly fantastic. Be it Atmos or just Dolby Surround, this receiver shines at not only surround sound, but in coaxing surround-like performance from lesser signals like stereo. This is one of the better receivers I've heard recently with respect to Dolby virtualization, turning even a basic 3.1 setup into one that sounded eerily close to matching the performance of a true 5.1 setup. The soundstage does favor width over depth, at least in my opinion, but both are respectable and very competitive compared to other AV receivers. When listening to two-channel music, the Integra is something else, possessing one of the widest sound stages I can recall hearing from a receiver. Dynamically, I don't think one needs to worry. This receiver dishes out more than enough power for most mainstream speakers on the market today, with plenty of grunt to make jump scares, explosions, and more feel truly captivating. So what don't I like? Well, to be honest, there was very little about the Integra's performance that I found surprising. Like I said, there are more than a few similarities between it and the comparable Onkyo or Pioneer receivers. That said, the DRX design is a little dated, reminding me of my old Integra processors and receivers going back more than a decade. To say the brand is due for a facelift at this point would be an understatement. But in terms of performance, the Integra is as solid and as easy to use as my Integras of old. Starting with the most obvious comparison, our reference AV receiver, the Onkyo RZ50. The RZ50 is a tad more powerful, it's THX certified, and has a few more preamp outs. It also runs about $100 more than the Integra. But when you get right down to it, unless you need a few extra features, these two receivers are neck and neck with respect to performance. Given how hard it is to score an RZ50 or any receiver nowadays, you won't be giving up much if you go with the Integra instead. And it's the same story when it comes to Pioneer's new Elite receivers. Across all three brands, Onkyo, Pioneer, or Integra, give or take a feature here or there, or about $100 plus or minus, you're going to enjoy largely the same performance. You want my advice? Get whatever receiver is in stock and works for you and your budget. Compared to other receivers like Yamaha's A8A, the Integra isn't quite as powerful nor as feature-rich and customizable, but sound-wise, I prefer the Integra to that of the Yamaha. Plus, DRX is just better than YPOW, and the Integra is fully realized and pretty much bug-free, which is more than I can say for Yamaha in my experience. As for comparable Denon receivers like the 3700, which you know I love, I would go with the Integra. You are getting more by way of features and connectivity for less money while giving up little to nothing in the sound department. Nothing against the Denon X series. They're proving to be pretty great, but in terms of value and accessibility, the Integra is just a notch above. So the real question is Integra back? Well, it sure seems so, at least to me, a longtime Integra user and customer. Everything from the user experience to the receiver's sound quality reminded me of my Integra receivers of old, which is high praise, not to mention what I had hoped for going into this review. Would I buy the Integra DRX 3.4 receiver for myself? Absolutely. So that's it. That is now my review of the Integra DRX 3.4 AV receiver, but now it's time to find out what Kristi thought of it.
Oh, I liked it.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I really can't tell the difference between the RZ50 and the Integra, which I think you made pretty clear to point out in your review. I think that the RZ50 is a little nicer looking, and I'm with you. I think the Integra feels just a tad dated, but I mean, who knows? Maybe that's what they were going for.
Yeah, I mean, Integra's thing has always kind of been more in the custom install market, while you have been able to get them at retail the same as you would, say, an Onkyo or Pioneer. I think Integra's bread and butter over the years has been custom installation, in which case I have to imagine, unlike Onkyo and unlike Pioneer Elite, they look at things as this is going in a rack, probably in an equipment closet, so it's not necessarily always about aesthetics. But I'm with you. I think Integra needs a facelift.
Yeah, definitely. You winked at the Rotel in the review, so I'm going to go out on a limb and ask the question I can already hear being typed out. Which did you prefer? Which do you really, really like? And same question for NAD fans. I'm positive they're going to ask you about the T778 or
or any
something.
of the other ones. Yeah. Hands down, in terms of just raw sound quality, in my opinion, I don't know if I've heard a better AV receiver than the Rotel. Now, in terms of feature sets, the Rotel is woefully behind. But for some of you that worry about obsolescence in software and things like that going bad or not getting support, the Rotel may be the better long-term investment in the fact that it just doesn't rely on so many different kind of computer whiz-bang tricks, right? The problem with the Rotel is if you are also, say, a gamer, or you need more complex Atmos or, things like that, the Rotel is going to come up a little bit short. And I don't believe that it will ever be upgraded to 4K 120, 8K 60, things like that. It doesn't have that mobile architecture the way that the NAD does. Now, speaking of the NAD, the 778 is still fantastic. I love it. I think it's a great platform. And if NAD sticks to their that architecture, that card-based design that they have with the 778, I think that the 778 can be part of these conversations with these newer receivers once those upgrade cards are released. But right now, if you are looking for the latest and greatest in the AV receiver department with respect to features, very few companies can really compete with Onkyo, Pioneer, or Integra at the moment. That's not to say that that's going to be a forever thing. I'm just saying at the moment. Like Denon has 8K 60, 4K 120 support, but it is limited usually to like one input. Whereas with Onkyo, Integra, Pioneer, all of the inputs will accept some form of that. Yamaha, if you're lucky, some of the units got the firmware update. Some still haven't. So you're probably left waiting a little bit here and there, depending on what you purchased. But things like the Rotel, they're going to be kind of locked in time. But if you're just looking for a kind of a home theater multi-channel integrated amp type vibe, the Rotel is fantastic. It's just kind of really expensive.
Yeah. And if anybody's watching and you're like, I know you're going to ask, well, what about RCam and what about Anthem? Look, we can't review something that we can't get.
Yeah.
So I've asked. Some of these companies I've asked going back like a year at least.
Oh, easy.
And either they say they don't have one or sometimes they just don't respond. So we would love to bring you those reviews, but there you go.
Yeah, we're never trying to keep anything from you.
Totally.
Yeah.
And final question.
Okay.
If both the RZ50 and the Integra are available, which one are you getting?
They're both available. They're right side by side. I can walk out with any of them. I'm still buying the RZ50 because for $100 extra, that little extra power, the few extra inputs, couple extra features, why not? Why not? Now, if there was like a $500 or $600, $1,000 price discrepancy between these two, I'd buy the Integra all day. All day. It's not enough of a difference, but I really do think, I don't want you guys to like hold me to it, but I think the price difference is $100, maybe $200, in which case, if the RZ50 is available, get it. But that isn't to say that the Integra is bad. If The RZ50 was like, I rocked up to the store and the last RZ50 just went out the door, but there's 2 Integras sitting here. Buy the Integra, I wouldn't even think twice about it.
All right.
Is that it?
Yep, that's it.
All right. Well, that is now our review of the Integra DRX 3.4. Now it's time for you guys to tell us, what do you think? Let us know down in the comments below. And while you're down there, my question of the day for you is this. It's pretty simple. And that is, what are you hoping to see from Integra going forward? Are you an old school Integra customer like me? Remember some of the things they used to do? Or are you hopeful that they will do something completely new as we head into 2022, 2023, and beyond? I know I'm excited for the brand to be back in full swing, so I'm curious what you guys think. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Go ahead and ring that bell so that you're notified when new videos come out. If you use any of the links that Kristi left for you down below, know that that is a great way that you have continued to show your support for this channel and the work that we do here, and we both thank you all very, very much for doing that. Follow me on Instagram at Recovering Audiophile, and that is it for us today. So remember, the only person who has to like the sound of your system is you. So happy listening, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.